Hey, what's up everybody? Welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we're going to talk about aerodynamics versus lightweight. Well, more specifically, we're going to talk about aerodynamics and how those principles can affect your riding. I mean, this is like an ongoing debate that just will not go away. For the last few years, it just seemed like aerodynamics had won the consensus, ran away with the crown, and nobody was disputing its significance and its supremacy. Now, all of a sudden, here comes lightweight, causing trouble, reinvigorating the debate. The cycling industry was modeling the whole concept of one bike that can do it all. A bike that was aerodynamic and at the same time was lightweight. Now, just for the record, I prioritize my cycling criteria or my bike buying criteria this way. Number one, comfort. Number two, drivetrain efficiency. Then it's lightweight. Then it's good looks. She's got to be a dandy. Resale value. And then I take aerodynamics into consideration. That's just the way I do it because my understanding of cycling is really very simple. It starts out number one, aerodynamics always matters, but its significance can vary. Number two, me, the cyclist, I make up 70% of the aerodynamic drag. And number three, even when drafting, the direction of the wind is going to play a significant role. Now, before I actually get into sharing my viewpoint on this subject, there's two words that I want us to take into consideration. One of them is optimize and the other one is significant. That's the intro. I'm ready to jump in. But first, I got to give a shout out to everybody who's watching from Italy. Ciao a tutti, especially to my brother, Roberto Legardito, the best bike riding tour guide ever. Robbie is amazing. Brother, I miss you. I look forward to seeing you next year. And with that, I got to let you guys know that very soon I'm going to be announcing a cycle tour in Tuscany. So stay tuned for that. All right, let's get into this. We got to talk about the different conditions in which we ride and how your bike is going to perform aerodynamically. Number one, we got to talk about pack riding. When you're in a pack, your bike's aero properties matter less than at any other times. Simple reason is your bike is tucked away, your wheel set is tucked away, the wind coming at your bike and wheel set is not clean, it's bouncing off of different cyclists, it's basically just dirty, turbulent air. So you can toss those clean wind tunnel numbers out the window. This is the best time for you to get in the drops and flatten your back. Second situation is when you're riding along in a double pace line, especially one where there's a spread. And by spread, I mean that the pace line is not particularly close together. You guys are not riding shoulder to shoulder. Basically, you can drive a small car between both lines. Aero matters more and your aero attributes become more significant. Now, in this situation, whether or not you're in a drops or you're doing the elbows thing bent at 90 degrees, it's going to kind of like amount to the same in terms of your body's influence on your bike. Number three is riding solo or pacing a group, or even if you're swapping turns. These are the situations in which aerodynamics is optimized. All aero basically is like a hands-on deck type situation. Your body's influence, however, is still 70%. Don't forget that number. The faster you go, the more the aero is going to matter. Most aero gains actually do begin to be optimized above 23 miles an hour. Now, there's that keyword, optimized. I'm not saying that aerodynamics does not matter below 23 miles an hour. What I'm saying is that when they tell you that it's like a 5% improvement in aerodynamics over last year's model, that's where you're getting it. You're getting it over 23 miles an hour. You're not getting the 5% improvement aerodynamically of this year's model over last year's model when you're trudging along at 16, 17 miles an hour. So that's the significance of it being optimized. All this pontification's got me feeling like we need to do a little bit of light math, and I'm actually going to share a very good resource with you. Now, keeping with a model that 70% of the aerodynamic drag is contributed by the rider on the bike, and 30% is coming from the bike, but that's the entire bike unit. So then we have your frame that contributes to drag, your wheel set that contributes to drag, your handlebars, whether they're integrated or not, your seat posts, all items of the bike in one way or another are going to contribute to drag. So when you pick out one item and you say, well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to get a 55 millimeter aerodynamic wheel set to replace the 24 or 30 millimeter wheel set that I currently have on there, because let's just say they're 10% more efficient at 24 miles an hour. Well, now you've got to take that efficiency and you've got to calculate it into the 30% of the bike and figure out how much of real world gains are you getting. But the real number is of the entire equation of the bike, of the rider on the bike. And then that number is going to break down to a very small increase in performance when you calculate it that way. Now, I'm not picking on wheel sets, and I'm not saying don't go out and get a better wheel set. In fact, whenever somebody is asked what's the best way to improve my bike, the answer has always been go out and get yourself a better wheel set. But that didn't always have everything to do with aerodynamics. In fact, in the old days, what you do is you contact a wheelsmith and ask him to build you a nice set of hoops, and he'd put it together based on what your requirements were. But the focal point of that wheel set was the hubs and the bearings. And I still maintain to this day that the best gains that you get from premium wheel set isn't so much what's going on aerodynamically, but it's more with what's going on mechanically with the hub and the bearings. So just bear that in mind. If you're going to spend your money, just have a realistic expectation about the real world gains that you're going to be able to achieve based on those aerodynamic achievements. And with all that being said, we've got to take that bling and vanity factor into consideration. Yes, deep section carbon wheels do look sick on a bike, and especially with today's modern carbon frames, they improve the appearance tremendously. Now, I did find this great article on gearandgrit.com where they spend a lot of time talking about aerodynamics and where you can get your gains. It starts out with an orientation of the relationship between the cyclist, the wind, and also the bike and the wind. Then it talks about Greg LeMond's use in the 1989 Tour de France, where he was able to overcome a 50-second deficit to beat Laurent Fignon by 8 seconds in that historical Tour de France. And it's not so much the aero bars, it was the position that the aero bars allowed Greg LeMond to put his body into. But then it gets down to this section where it actually starts talking about gains from clothing, making your body more aerodynamically efficient versus actually purchasing kit to improve your aerodynamics. And the painful conclusion that it makes is that even though you're going to spend more money on components, you're going to get greater gains by improving your body's aerodynamic relationship to the wind. Then it talks about shaving legs and all kind of stuff. Great resource. Check it out. Now, because I did start this entire thing talking about the difference between lightweight and aerodynamics, and I did mention the overall bike, I am well aware that today Specialized launched all of the information on the much anticipated, worst kept secret ever, the upcoming Tarmac SL8. It's a bike that's said to be stiffer, lighter, and more aerodynamics. And as I was looking at the numbers, one of the numbers that really stuck out at me was where it said that the bike has a 33% increase in stiffness to weight ratio over the SL7. And as I looked at that, I was like, well, wait a minute, the bike is 12% lighter. So it's really not 33% stiffer, because a lot of people are going around saying the bike is 33% stiffer. It's not that it's 33% stiffer. It's that it has a 33% increase in stiffness to weight. So take that with a grain of salt. Again, that's kind of like marketing numbers, but you've got to take these things into consideration in terms of what type of real world value you're going to be able to get back from it. Now, where does this all leave me in terms of my argument about weight being more important to me than aerodynamics, especially since I live in Pan Flat, Florida? Lewis, I think Aero should matter more to you. Well, I just shared with you the reasons why I don't place a super strong emphasis on aerodynamics. But weight does matter down here in South Florida, especially when it comes to acceleration. A lot of the rides that I do are these fast group rides where you're coming out of turns and you got to get the bike up to speed, 25, 26, 27, sometimes 30 miles an hour to be able to close the gap. And me being able to do that on a bike that weighs 15 pounds is a lot easier than me trying to do that on a bike that weighs 17, 18, or even 20 pounds. Now, once I'm cruising along, yes, it doesn't matter, but that's a significant part of the rides, and that's something that can actually punish me if I'm not on my P's and Q's in terms of my power to weight ratio. And my power to weight ratio takes into consideration not only my weight, but also the weight of the bike. And I do occasionally take my bike to places like Central Florida or Georgia, where I do get an opportunity to enjoy some nice climbs. So yes, weight does matter to me. What can we get out of this entire thing? Well, one of the things that I think is very important is to focus on making yourself more aerodynamic, your head. For example, I remember the day when I first wore this helmet the Evade, and I felt it. I was like, this thing is great. I definitely felt the difference in where the wind was hitting my back and my shoulders with an aerodynamic helmet. And I have ridden with skin suits, and I can tell you that you're going to feel more efficient riding with a skin suit than you are with just regular bibs. So focus on your positioning, where you place your head, how you're able to sit on a bike. Maybe focus on your core strength so that you can work on increasing your flexibility and then being able to have a more aerodynamic position. And focus on your leg and your knee alignment to make sure that you have a more attractive profile to the wind. So that's my take on lightweight versus aerodynamics. What I'd like to know is, which one do you prioritize? And do you focus your gains on improving maybe your body's profile and position to the wind? Or do you focus on upgrading the components on your bike to get it as aero as possible? Or conversely, do you focus on shedding a few pounds off of your body? Or do you prioritize trying to shed a few grams off of your build? Sound off in the comment section below and let us know which camp you're in, lightweight or aero, or maybe you're in both. Let us know. All right, that's it. I've got 2 more videos coming up on the steel build. One of them is I've got a new wheel set coming in. I'm not going to tell you what it is, but we're going to see how this new wheel set actually affects the ride characteristics on the bike. And I'm planning a ride in Central Florida where I'll be able to flush out the climbing characteristics of the bike. Fun stuff. All right, guys. As always, our aim here at the channel is to inform, instruct, inspire. Be blessed.